Today with former Congressman Ted Deutch. He is the CEO of the American Jewish Committee, the group that was hosting the event where the killings took place. Congressman, thank you for being here.
Thanks, Nicole.
Congressman, what can you add to our understanding of what happened?
Well, it's a really important question. The answer is it's impossible to understand what happened here. And look, from a factual standpoint, there are investigations ongoing. The Trump administration, the mayor of Washington, the Bowser administration have both been incredible in the way that they've pursued this, the serious way that they're approaching this to find out exactly what happened here. We obviously need to learn much more than we already know. But there is no explaining what happened. There is no, this is the worst fears of the Jewish community coming to fruition. This is what happens, Nicole, when people march in the streets in support of terrorists, chant the slogans of terrorists, globalize the Intifada as a slogan that calls for death, celebrates the slaughter of people in Israel, celebrates or refuses to stand up and acknowledge that it's now almost 600 days that 58 hostages continue to be held. This is what happens when words and anti-Semitic statements aren't confronted. This is the violence that we expected. We have to come together now to make sure that this is the kind of thing that we never, ever see again. We can't tolerate anti-Semitism and hatred that leads to this violence.
And that is the work, you know, from this day forward, but I don't want to lose sight of these victims. No. They sound like extraordinary human beings. I'm going to play for you some of NBC's interview with Sarah's dad.
Sarah's a wonderful girl, and she was as close to perfect as any human could be. She had a passion for learning, she had a passion for the environment, and she had a passion for Israel. And she was recently very much in love with Yaron.
I want to read a little bit more about Sarah, and then we'll talk about Yaron, Congressman. Sarah worked in the Department of Public Diplomacy. That's according to her own LinkedIn page. She graduated with a master's degree in international affairs from American University and another master's in natural resources and sustainable development from the University for Peace. Prior to working at the embassy, she worked with Tech to Peace in Tel Aviv, where she conducted research on peace building and grassroots initiatives in the Israeli-Palestinian region. A young diplomat who'd devoted all of her professional work and her studies to peace.
I'm so grateful. So grateful that you shared that. Look, Sarah's also someone that Sarah and Yaron both are people that the AJC knew well. And in Sarah's case, all of the good work that you described, the incredible person that her father described, was someone that we saw through her involvement with us in all of the ways that she worked to help build bridges, to help find ways to bring people together across the region in the Middle East. Last night's event was an event focused on exactly that, on finding ways to bring people together. And so we should rededicate ourselves, I think all of us, to acting to honor the memory of Sarah and Yaron by doing the kind of work that she so deeply believed in, the work that Yaron worked on at the embassy, again, to think about and to work toward a peaceful world. The people who hate Jews, Nicole, the people who so despise Jews and Israel that they wind up committing horrific acts like this, they're trying to tear the world apart. And that's not who we are as a Jewish community. It's not who we are as Americans. I'm so grateful to you for letting the world understand really how tragic last night's events were and the loss that we all feel today.
Well, I learned when I was in the position of speaking to families whose loved ones. A lot of young people were taken hostage or murdered after the terrorist attack on October 7th. It is often the young people who are the ones in their country trying to make it different and trying to address concerns about the children and the civilians in Gaza. And I wonder how you counsel people to lift up the people who are devoting their life. I mean, these were diplomats. These were Israeli diplomats in America who were at an event that was focused on, as I understand it, it's your event, so you correct me if I have this wrong, how to get humanitarian aid to the children and the civilians in Gaza without Hamas sort of interceding and causing more harm. How do you let their work? That was Sarah and Yaron's focus last night when they were murdered in cold blood. How do you lift up that work in a climate where everything you talked about seems to be going in the wrong direction? There have been more than 10,000 anti-Semitic incidents in the year after the terrorist attack of October 7th.
Yeah, you're right. The program last night was on humanitarian diplomacy. There's nothing that we could speak of that offers a more hopeful future than that. And then this awful tragedy that occurred just after the event ended. How do we hold up this work? You're so right. It's really the young people who are involved at AJC, who last night was an event where we had not just young Jews, but we had young diplomats from across Washington, D.C., all of whom came together as friends, as allies, all committed to working to strengthen the bridges that should be built between us. We help young people at a moment like this. We have to, by rededicating ourselves to this work. At AJC, we fight anti-Semitism, and we're going to continue to do that. People need to speak out and in every way that they can. But at the same time, we also work to create a world where Israel's place in the region is normalized, and where all of the countries can exist and work in collaboration with one another. It's the reason why the Abraham Accords was so important. It's the reason why AJC has an office in Abu Dhabi to go along with our office in Jerusalem to do this work. We have to continue to do this work. We encourage everyone in order to help honor the memory of these young souls who were taken from us, ripped away from us. To honor their memory by continuing to engage in this really critical work for the benefit of the Jewish community in Israel, but for the benefit of the broader region and the world. That's what we should all be striving for.
I lived and worked in D.C. You've lived and worked in D.C. How do you talk to Israeli government officials or Israeli students about how or why they should feel safe in America right now?
Well, look, first, Nicole, I would broaden that question just a bit. What you showed earlier, the hardening of security at Jewish institutions, really begs the larger question of, in America, how can it be that for the Jewish community, simply gathering in one place makes us concerned because we might be a target, and that we require, as you showed in your report, these tactical units of the police to come to protect institutions where our community gathers to pray and to learn and to celebrate and to be with one another. It's true for us, and it's true for Jews all around the world. The message for Israelis is a message. I've been getting calls from Israeli friends today who have asked the question from people who sustained the worst attack on the Jewish community since the Holocaust on October 7th, who asked how it is that what happened in America is allowed to happen, and how it is that people aren't outraged and speaking out against the kind of anti-Semitism, any anti-Semitism, because anti-Semitism isn't just words. It's words until it isn't. It's words until it's action, and it's words until it's murder. That's what happened last night. The message for everyone around the world, Jews in America and elsewhere, Israelis, everyone, is that we have to fight against anti-Semitism together. That's how we prevent this from happening, and that's how we keep everyone safe.
I want to just pull into this conversation my colleague, NBC News correspondent Julia Ainsley. She's outside the scene, the site of this murder last night at the Capitol Jewish Museum. I wonder, Julia, if you can jump in with any new reporting on our understanding of what happened and what is expected to happen this afternoon in court.
Absolutely, Nicole. It's been really somber out here this afternoon. There have been people coming by talking about peace, Christians, Jewish people talking about how the fact that these people were inside a Jewish museum to talk about aid to Gaza. This was supposed to be a meeting about reconciliation and about the level of security they had just for the event. They had to register. What they weren't prepared for was an attack outside. And I talked to someone who was there last night who said that they heard 15 shots of gunfire, and then a man came in who seemed distraught. He was pale. Then when the police came, he turned himself in as the assailant. And they said they had no idea that the stranger that they welcomed in, trying to comfort him, thinking he had been an innocent bystander and a victim, or at least a witness to a crime, was actually the perpetrator himself. And now that alleged gunman is Elias Rodriguez, who just moments from now, Nicole, is expected to appear in federal court just down the street from me here. The feds quickly took over in this case. This has not been anything really handled by D.C. Metropolitan Police Department or in D.C. court. We expect today for charges to be brought against Elias Rodriguez. And we've already seen a little preview of what that will look like from Attorney General Pam Bondi today, saying they want to bring the full force of the Justice Department in this case, even talking about they could go as far as the death penalty. And then the Deputy Director at the FBI, Dan Bongino, explaining more, saying for the sake of transparency, they want to show the American public exactly what they're investigating. Really an unprecedented move, especially to post that publicly, but saying that this manifesto that's been out there, some of the written words that are believed to have been by this alleged gunman, that they're looking into the authenticity of that manifesto. And so we can expect that to be used possibly as evidence in court, while at the same time the FBI and other federal agents have completely swarmed what is believed to be a residence of this alleged gunman in Chicago and have been busy doing investigations and pulling evidence from that residence this afternoon. So this has really been a fast response here. I have to say, from people who have come by today and witnesses that we've spoken to, they say there's just, really a new level of fear that has spread through this community. And they really, want to see what happens in this case as the investigation continues and they see this be brought to light.
Julia, in your experience in covering law enforcement, are there any examples that come to your mind of an alleged murder where the weapon is somehow disposed of and then the alleged murderer enters the target of the crime and seeks to be with the same people that he targeted coming out of that location?
It's completely unusual. And I think that, sometimes we can see someone try to be lost in a crowd. I think that's happened before. If you're thinking about maybe at a scene of a protest, someone could fire and then kind of get lost into a crowd. But this is really unusual and really speaks to how difficult it is for security in situations like this. In fact, our affiliate here in D.C., our NBC affiliate, had just done some reporting on the need for more security around this museum. We see a lot of security around the Israeli embassy here. But in this case, if you compare this to, say, a Dylan Roof incident in Charleston, South Carolina, where he was able to walk into a church and carry out a mass attack during a Bible study, that kind of incident would tell security they need to do more to figure out who's coming in, to lock doors. All of that was done here to keep anyone from coming inside the perimeter. But what happened at the end of the night, and the witnesses here say people are tired, it's after 9 o'clock, they've let their guard down, people are leaving, and it's really difficult for them to have any kind of security that would be a perimeter to go out onto what is really a public space. You see exactly where I'm standing now. This is a place where anyone could be, and apparently this alleged gunman was pacing outside for a long time before this attack, and this young couple happened to be among the first to leave the event. It also speaks not just to security, but to the warmth of this community here that wanted to bring in this stranger who they thought had actually been a witness to the crime. So really, really devastating news, and especially I think it was horrifying for them when they did all of a sudden hear him start chanting "Free Palestine" and turn himself in for being the alleged gunman in this case. But really unusual, Nicole, and really speaks to the difficulty of security in situations like this.
I mean, Congressman, it gets back to your first point about hate in people's hearts and anti-Semitism. And we've had pictures on our network all day of the fortifying of Jewish institutions. But to my colleague Julie Ainsley's reporting, this was someone who carried out a heinous crime on a public street, allegedly, and then walked into the facility. I mean, what are your thoughts about where we go from this moment?
Well, I think we have to just be clear as a country, as a world, that we cannot normalize anti-Semitism. We can't look the other way. We have to confront it. And what does that mean? It means in a K through 12 school, if students are marginalized because they're Jewish, then you should go confront the administrators. It means on a university campus, if students are shunned from clubs, or if they're not allowed to walk across campus because they're Jewish, because they support Israel, then the administrators of the university need to know that. It means if you see online hate and anti-Semitism spewing forth, then report it to the social media companies. Holocaust denial and the refusal to acknowledge what happened in the Shoah and the Holocaust when 6 million Jews were killed. Again, when you see that, you have to report it. Being silent is not contributing to the solution. The solution requires all of us, the Jewish community, we will always be resilient and strong and proud with our friends and allies together to make clear that we just simply will not tolerate it. And finally, Nicole, when someone takes to the streets and they dress up as terrorists wearing Hezbollah or Hamas headbands, and when they chant the slogans of terrorists, and when they advocate for the same things that the terrorists advocate for, this isn't just free expression. This is what leads to the kind of tragedy that we saw last night, and we cannot and we must not tolerate it anymore.
Congressman Ted Deutch and Julia Ainsley, thank you both for being here today.